Hi, everybody. Welcome to Opening Doors with me. I am Alastair Moock, and I am getting the hang of this whole StreamYard thing. This is my first time using this platform. Thank you to Ellis Paul, who talked me through it as best as he was able to get it into my head earlier this week. So this is a brand new series. And it is co-sponsored by the anti-racism team of the UU Church of Melrose, Massachusetts, where I and my family are members. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while. And when the church team came to me and said, would you be interested in hosting some sort of series? We have some funding for it. This is the vision that I had in mind. And it grew out of a recent program I did with my good friend Reggie Harris. This is a program, Race and Song, a Musical Conversation, is a program we put together for schools where the two of us got together and talked about our lived experiences. What is it like to live in our skin? What do we have in common? What do we not? And we framed the conversation with music, brought music that we love to the table, and had a dialogue. And it was enlightening. It's been a really productive program to be doing with schools. And Reggie and I have been doing questions and answers with kids from little guys all the way down to kindergarten, up through high school, and even some colleges. So I wanted to continue those conversations in a more adult space, which brings us here tonight. And the adult that I'll be bringing in is a guy named Vance Gilbert. I'll read you a little bit. I want to tell you a little bit about Vance. I'll tell you a little bit from his bio before I give you my own input. Vance he's truly a legendary singer-songwriter in folk circles. He's played all around the world and in all the big folk stages. He has opened for folks like Arlo Guthrie and Aretha Franklin. I got to ask him about that one. The Milk Carton Kids, 150 shows opening for George Carlin. I want to talk to him about that too. And he's done a lot of recordings with his old friend Ellis Paul, a friend of mine, well known in songwriter circles. I like this quote from Richmond Magazine. It says, if Joni Mitchell and Richie Havens had a love child with Rodney Dangerfield as the midwife, the results might have been something close to the great Vance Gilbert. And Vance says of himself that he defies stereotypes, that he says, I'm black, I sing, I play an acoustic guitar, and I don't play blues. And I imagine that has been confounding to some people over the years. Here to confound us further is my good friend Vance Gilbert. Hi, Vance.
Oh, we on. Hey, Alastair, what's up, man? Sorry about that.
I should have told you the exact start time. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on here. And we have no idea what's going to happen, which is what's most exciting about this.
You know, anytime you're involved in a show, nobody knows what's going to happen to
right?
begin with.
It's kind of like it's like your backhand.
Okay, so folks, some of you folks I know here are in Melrose, Massachusetts. I wanted to share. You may find me and Vance on the courts. We like to play tennis together. We played quite a bit this summer. It's quite a scene when we get out there. Vance is good.
Yeah, we're both good. I think we're above average club players, I'd say.
Yeah. But we have a mutual friend who's much better than both of us, Mark Orelli.
Do you think Mark is really better than both of us playing?
Well, not in life. We're both better in life, but on
in
the tennis court.
You think so? You think so?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
you don't?
Not yet. I don't know.
A lot of this conversation is I want to talk about perspective, bias. There's a lot of things that are hard to measure, but it's not hard to measure whether or not Mark's better than us on the tennis court. But the fact that you have found a nuance in it speaks a lot to the way you see the world, I think.
I'm not ready to say that I'm a full echelon lower than Mark Aureli on the tennis court. We've never played. We've just hit. We've never played a full set. Okay. I was heavier then, so I don't know.
All right. Mark and I played doubles in the Melrose Open. We lost. Our asses lost quick. The two young guys who wiped us off the court, but still, I know my limitations, which is important in life to know what you can and can't do, I think.
Is it really important to know what you can and can't do? Or is that what pushing the envelope means? I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'm going to give it a big ass college try. That might be. I think we might want to redefine that old saw of knowing one's limitations. I don't know.
This could be the difference in our success, our relative success in this field.
In tennis?
No, in music, man.
Well, you're the one walking around a Grammy. I'm just the opening act for a whole bunch of white people. So, I mean, and
Aretha Franklin.
Well, whatever. Don't split hairs with me.
All right. We'll come back to that. Would you we've talked enough already, and I want to hear some music. Would you grace us with a couple of songs off the bat?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to.
All right. How do I get rid of myself?
This is one of my hits. Well, it's a hit around here. I'm here alone a lot. You can live on pie and whiskey, but you surely won't live too long. One is as sweet as your very first kiss, the other gonna go down strong. Neither one will sustain you when the other make your belly lame and go all wrong. You can live on pie and whiskey, but you surely won't live too long. You can sing yourself a lullaby like your mama sang to you. Hers was just like a ringing a bell, yours is like a worn out shoe. She had a voice just like honey, yours just like leather nails and glue. You can sing yourself a lullaby like your mama sang to you. Cry like no tomorrow, but yesterday done come and gone. Hijack the pie and the whiskey, kidnap your mama's soul. Oh, but worn out shoes are made for walking. You better get a walking, 'cause you ain't gonna be here long. You can cry, cry, cry like no tomorrow. You can sing yourself a lullaby. You can live on pie and whiskey, but you surely won't live too long. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is by request from Alastair. Alastair wanted me to play this. I think this is a good way to start a conversation too. I was such a strange boy, 40 years or so back then. Fat with big thick old glasses, I had trouble making friends. Cruising through my neighborhood, could easily have come to no good end, till I stumbled into the workshops of old white men. Call your mother, you can stay. That's about all they'd ever say. And they'd take the lid off of some old wooden box, and inside would lay a gem made of string and spring, wood and glue. Right then and there I'm sure I knew firsthand the raw ingredients of old white men. Old white men get teary-eyed December 7th. Old white men salute every flag they see. Old white men didn't care how cool I couldn't be. A drop of glue will do to helping men. Put the cap on when you're through, said old white man. It was all ball-peen hammers and calipers, dovetail joints and acetone, tubes and printed circuits, screws and spokes and wheels. The difference between truth and opinion. When you're old enough, be sure you vote. And never trust a woman wearing more than 3-inch heels. Oh, white men living cross-cut chains so lives. Oh, white men, they don't talk back to their wives. Old white men, thanks to them, I can sharpen your kitchen knives with a stone. Sometimes when I'm alone, I wonder what became of old white men. Do they synchronize their watches as on and on time marches? Do their belts need extra notches as their waistlines grow big and round? I call their wives up often, and I carry their husbands' coffins as these gray hairs of my own chase me down. Over the years I outgrew my awkward situation. I went to college, I joined a cause, became the black man I never was. And over the years I learned to view old white men with suspicion, 'cause I heard the world was run and ruined by old white men. Last Thursday I was hunched over my Briggs and Stratton mower, trying to adjust the carburetor when this kid come bending my ear, always bugging me when I'm working. So I said, make yourself seem useful, son. Clean the carbon off that spark plug, wipe it down and hand it here. Oh, white men, look me squarely in the eyes. Old white men, they look right past my skin. Oh, white men, I can hear them oh so clearly. Are you gonna stand there with that sanding block, son? Or make it so these pieces fit again? There you go.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sir. Oh, got a little
I love that
ear
song.
action here.
While Vance is fixing his earbuds,
There we go. I'm back.
I've got payment info up here. Vance, I hope this is correct. I stole it from Ellis, but I never actually asked you. Did these look right?
Oh, it looked fine to me. Fine. That's great. And
Okay,
thank you to everybody for that.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
and it's in the comment section. Now, I'll just mention, and we'll come back to this later, but your donations tonight will be split between Vance and a food security organization that he chose. We'll talk to them later tonight. And the Melrose UU Church anti-racism team has thrown money in the pot for Vance as well. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for all of that. You know, the old proverbial, with you for this, I've probably done this for closer to nothing, but appreciate you recognizing me.
Oh,
Because,
man, you should have told me that beforehand.
One of the things I love about hanging with you is your willingness to talk about shit, and it's we spent equally as much time at the net and outside the court, 6 feet away on the bench, running our mouths about our world and commenting to people as they go by, just lovingly. You know, my sort of fun way of, hey, it's nice to see you today, you know, sort of thing. And acting like an old man on a bench, in a matter of speaking. And I just love how willing you are to talk, Alastair. And it's not easy. I wouldn't want to be. I would not want to be a cisgendered white dude right now today for any money in the world, because there's a lot to deal with in taking in this new world. There's as we check and double check on our sexism, and as white men, that's when I step back and go, yo, go ahead.
At least I'm not you.
At least I'm not you. You know, I gotta check how I act about my junk, but I still, you know, I can throw that around, as it were.
Well, I think you're right. I think also, you know, that all that baggage also comes with a whole lot of privilege and power. And that has been something that has been a real learning experience for me these last couple of years, and examining that more closely. And some of our conversations out on the tennis court, especially as I've been going through, you know, some journeys with music, with my own stuff, and being able to bounce that off you. You know, we have known each other for probably 20 years, but I don't, because I never knew how to have conversations about race. I felt a lot of time with you, as I have felt with many Black Americans in my life, that I had these knots inside me, and those knots stopped me from being able to be my full authentic self because I was afraid of saying the wrong stuff or stepping in it. And so you bow to a kind of crippling politeness. And I feel like in our relationship, we broke through that this year, and it opened up a whole conversation, but I had to learn how to get there. And this has been something that I've been figuring out a lot. in my life.
Well, I think it's admirable. I mean, first of all, one of the things that if I was to, I can't believe I'm going here so soon, but I'm going to do it. If there's anything I would admonish youthful forefront of doing our work, black people, there would be two things. First is, and this is through some training on an online course that I sat in on with a woman named Loretta Ross, who was a monster when it comes to blackness and equality. And look her name up. She's a real stalwart in that. Is that first of all, it's a matter of calling people in rather than calling them out, which is there's a certain amount of puffing up and shaming that happens with calling people out, and it comes from a place of having been squashed for so long. But there's a matter of calling people in, where you call people to task by way of doing it in a small way and in a personal way, and making sure that you have an ally. But because if you call someone out on their racism or their sexism and you brush your hands of it and you walk away, what have you done but made a momentarily crippled enemy? And there's no one more dangerous than a momentary. No one learns by having the rug pulled from out of them and from underneath them, and they hit their head on a piece of furniture, and you walk out the room taller somehow. So we as black people, as women, we need to make places for our allies to come as we create allies, as we turn Saul to Paul, as we lift fallen people up. I mean, it's Buddhist, it's Christian, it's Unitarian. That's what you do. You take people you're not making a club of people who are good just like you. You're trying to bring humanity together, and you're gonna find shitty people. And our job, if we're really brave, is a matter of calling some people in. The other thing that I want to admonish progressive people, particularly progressive black people, and I've caught some shit for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. One of these things is when so much of this came to the fore in the recent year, along with the pandemic, but with George Floyd situations and such, is that don't burden your black friends with your growth. And I really, really, really struggle with that, because a lot of black community is saying, you white people need to go and take care of your business and figure this stuff out yourself. Well, this is what got us here in the first place. White people figuring this shit out all by themselves without the input of any black people. So we need to take a deep breath and be ready and willing to be a resource, or at least point to resources. But more often be the resource. I cannot imagine one of my white friends coming up to me and saying, I'm struggling with the idea of something. And me going, oh no, don't be burdening me. Now, that having been said, I know I'm going on, Alastair. I know I'm going on, but having been said, black women have a point in this, in that they don't want to be, they have been 200 and 300 years of being mammy. They don't want to have to take care of white people and their feelings. And I understand that. But when it transcends feelings, when it transcends that place where there's a white baby suckling at the teat of the omnipresent black woman, when you get past that, and your friend says, this is so new to me, that is not the time to say to your white friend, well, you better put on your big girl panties or big boy panties and go figure it out. That's the time to say, I hear you. I appreciate you coming up and out with whatever it is you've got. Because you know what? This color thing that we have is about melanin from the mountains and melanin from the lowlands and trade routes, and all the other genetics are absolute. These are tiny, fluffy constructs that someone at some point in time, for trade, turned into something that is supposed to be immutable. And that's what race is, and that's why I might sound like some sort of conservative somebody rather right now, but so be it. It's when you can bring it up, Alastair, and you and I can talk about it. That's when the work gets done. Not me run to my car and pull out one of the 30 copies of White Fragility and handing it to you and then driving off. That ain't doing nobody a bit of good out the gate. It might help you. I mean, it might help you a little because I know your reading skills aren't what they could be. But that's where we are. And I see people in the chat here, and I would imagine a lot of them are white. And you're saying right on, okay, yeah. Still, don't go to your black girlfriend and break down and cry. I haven't treated you well. Remember the time I didn't invite you to the lake? I'm so sorry. We don't want to hear that shit. Please don't do that. But open up the conversation with. Can I talk about your black experience so I know which one of these books to read that Alastair can't read? Sorry, man. I'm just
no. Thanks for mixing the insults right in with all the.
I'm just saying, bro.
There's a lot there to unpack, man, and I think your perspective on this is important for folks to hear, and I try to weigh it with other perspectives I hear. When you say that you hear folks push back on you in the black community, I can understand that push because I know I've learned more and more how exhausting these conversations can be, right? And it's less a matter of strategy than it is about how much can you carry on your shoulders.
Right.
So, when you talk about race here as a construct, and of course it is, right? I have seen, even in posting about these shows, the danger here for white folks is that there's a whole bunch of white folks out there who are so quick now to say, race is just a construct, color doesn't matter, and I'm colorblind. And we end up with this reverse thing, right? Where you have white people saying, I'm the least racist, nobody in particular, but somebody say, I'm the least racist person in the world. I don't see color. Well, you're not seeing color. That's the ultimate privilege because you don't have to see color. But I haven't spoken to anybody who's not white who says I'm colorblind because that's not a choice. Now, do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Privilege gives you the opportunity to have privilege. And there's a lot of privilege out there, and we have to take our deep breath and deal sometimes. There is privilege in saying, I don't want to discuss politics. Let's be clear. I mean, black people are not monolithically left-wing or Democrat, but to not discuss politics is a privilege that white people sitting on their lawn talking to each other can afford to do, because it directly affects black people standing in line that would like a drink of water before they vote. That kind of politics is a direct effect upon that community. There is privilege in the kind of choice where one would very openly refuse an award because of the fact that the giver of the award does not recognize people of color. There is some privilege there. And one might argue that given half the chance, maybe one might take the award and then raise a stink, like take that thing and wave it around and shove it in faces. For example, let me tell you this anecdote. I'm poking at you hard, Alastair. You can explain to people later what the hell I'm talking about. But I had my best friend from college is an incredible musician, and now he was a minister, and now he's a bass player and lectures on original biblical and Sephardic languages. This is what a badass this guy is. He's a savant, and I love him dearly, John. And I remember when we were roommates after college, and he came blubbering to me. He says, "Dude, I'm so sad. I'm playing saxophone in all these GB bands, and I'm trying to make my way, and it's just so." It's really hard, and I'm glad it's hard. But now my mom wants to send me. She wants to send me a couple $1,000. His mom was a psychologist. She wants to send me a couple $1,000 to sort of take care of me, and I just don't. I'm refusing it. I don't want to do that. I want to live the life. I said, shh, dude, you are going to refuse resources so that you can claim to live the hard life? Do you know how insulting that is to me, to not be, that I don't get to make that choice? Man, you better go get your mama's money and then give me some of your mama's money. Pay some of this, pay a little extra on the rent or something. It wasn't even that. It was just a matter of utilize your resources. You have resources. Go out there and get them and use them. And don't elevate your need to be dark as being so soulful that you're not supposed to have money. I mean, Duke Ellington always had money. Chris Rock has money. These people have money now, and they're still black. But it's, you can have money as a white person and do great things. Do your damn great things. Do great things, but open your mouth like you're doing, Alastair. You are opening your mouth and making noise, and I'm sure pissing some people off. And that's what the man meant by good trouble. So
what Vance is referring to is the fact that I got nominated for a Grammy for children's music this year and declined the nomination with two other of the 5 acts, because it was an all-white lineup, and because this has been a repeated pattern in children's music, and because I'm part of a racial justice group in children's music that had really set the table this year for different results that weren't seen in that particular space. That group launched a protest, and we, as the nominees, followed. So I think what you were just talking about. I mean, I have heard from a lot of white folks, oh, you gave that up because you felt guilty. And I've pushed back hard on that, because it wasn't guilt. I had an opportunity, and that is a privilege, like you say. I had an opportunity for my voice to be heard because of the platform that I was given. And so I made the choice in the moment that felt right, with John Lewis's words, cause good trouble. I was nominated for an album called Be a Pain, an album that largely traded on the stories.
Right there. Yeah. Right there, that's good.
And, that's what the album was about causing good trouble. And so when I had that opportunity to not be willing to do the thing that I said was important, and I think, and we should get back to playing music in a minute, but it brings me back to some, when you were talking before, I was thinking about liberalism. When you talk about being an ally and making room for your allies, it's that careful line, right, between not shutting out people who are allies, right, but also, I'll push on the other side, like challenging white allies to really think what their allyship involves. And speaking for myself,
didn't I just do that a damn minute ago?
You did.
Didn't I just do that a minute ago and now you run in your mouth? I just challenged you, Alastair.
Sometimes you
Whatever,
got to. Yeah.
Alastair.
Yeah.
Whatever makes your voice louder, whichever one of those things you decided to do that made you do loud shit is the one I applaud because your backhand still stinks. Oh my God! It's like it's like a
Right.
Jinsu thing.
Okay. I feel like, when Malcolm X did his debates with people, he
Malcolm
never
X
had to
did
deal
not
with
play
this.
tennis.
Exactly.
He did not play tennis. Malcolm, talking about calling an ally, the part of the autobiography of Malcolm X, the portion of that book that struck me harder than anything else was when the red-headed white girl came to the door of his headquarters with her bags and said, she knocked on the door, put her bags down, and said, "I'm here. How can I help?" And I don't remember exactly what the quote was. He said something. He said, "The best thing you can do is either go away or die." And near the end of the book, after he came back from Africa, after his pilgrimage, he came back. He was so heartily sorry that he'd done that. He was so heartily sorry that he had said that in itself, and he wished that he had taken her in as an ally, and that was like, because I was reading this book as a, I look what I do for a living. I am but so revolutionary. I play folk music. I build model airplanes, and I play tennis with white people in Melrose. I mean, come on, does it get any whiter than that? But when I'm reading something like Malcolm X, I'm like, throwing my fist up in the air, and I read that, and my brain exploded. That he felt that he had thrown away the opportunity to make an ally. And honestly, between you and me, that's what made Malcolm X dangerous. Not when he was a revolutionary, but anybody you could just point at somebody and say revolutionary. That immediately the blinds go down and the doors get shut. But you start to, oh my God, when he's and the people that also brought you QAnon will also say that that kind of thinking got Malcolm X killed, along with the kind of thinking when Martin Luther King decided to get political and say the Vietnam War was bad. That got them both killed. So that's that's some X-Files shit right there. But
yeah, one thing that comes to my mind, and I'm gonna shut up in a minute, and we need to hear some more music. But one thing that comes to mind in this conversation is part of the reason I think, we're pushing in different directions is that we're speaking to different audiences. You can make a nuanced conversation to your black brothers and sisters about the importance of allyship. As a white man who is learning more about race, I feel the need to speak to other white folks, my white brothers and sisters, to talk about, okay, if you are, if Vance and others are willing to take your allyship, you still need to ask yourself, what am I doing? Am I just talking, or am I actually willing to give something up? Am I actually willing to put some skin in the game? Because this is the problem with liberalism, and this has been the big revelation for me over the last few years, is that a lot of us liberals who vote Democratic and support, whether it's Joe or Bernie or, Elizabeth, we're very good at talking. We're very good at posting about Black Lives Matter. But when it comes to actually be willing to give up your time, to give up your treasure, to give up some space to make room for other people, that's when we move to the suburbs and we put our kids in those schools and we use all the privilege that we have. And that's where the talking runs into a brick wall. So I feel the need to speak to that audience and to myself.
Absolutely, Alastair. And I mean, I am also talking to a white audience, predominantly, I would imagine. I see Jim Henry on the feed here. Don't get any
Yeah.
whiter than that. Although
No, no.
he can play. I mean, but that's a white boy right there.
Yeah, he's very, very white.
But we love him. Here's the deal. We all need to learn to walk uncomfortable. Walk uncomfortable. Walk the uncomfortable line, and that is not only what you give up or what you don't give up, but it's really okay to be uncertain. You have to be ready to make those mistakes. Right now I am ready to make the mistake of saying Latino rather than Latinx and have somebody correct me. Fine. It does not make me an unmitigated dick to not know. I am walking the walk. I'm ready to be uncomfortable. When I talk to a group of people, I say, hey, guys. And I just like, oh, shite. Hey, folks, I am actively replacing guys with folks. But in between them, I'm going to make the mistake and I'm going to walk uncomfortable. It is okay to think these thoughts and be equal-minded and maybe be pro-life. Maybe that's how you personally are, but you feel this way about these other things. Stay in your gray area and do the work and help those around you. You don't have to flop to one side or the other like it's a feather bed. You do work.
Yes, sir.
The work is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable because one of the things that draws us all together is that we're human. This brown and the white, we're still human, and it's uncomfortable stuff. But it's just as uncomfortable as having to pick up all the balls sprayed around the court from your lousy friggin' backhand. There, I said it.
All right. Would you shut up and play us a song at this point?
All right, fine.
All right, Laura.
This is people who have known me for years. This song is over 30 years old. I've been driving these back roads for 40-odd years, delivering these goods to town after town. I'm union, I'm black. I got a wife and 2 kids. I put them through college, dragging this trailer around. I've been in hundreds of these places that dot these dark highways. They stay open all night with their bright neon signs. They're a welcome oasis for us lonesome old drivers. We pull up our diesels with red bleary eyes. So I stop for the paper and that good cup of coffee, and I read and remember how quickly things change. But a slap on the back, someone says, hey bro, what's happening? But it comes from so many, Lord, and I don't know their names. But it's nothing you notice and you can't understand. So I keep to the right of the broken white line. But my eyes are still wandering, 'cause I always be looking for that good cup of coffee. I can sit at this counter, get served in a minute, small talk the weather, or say nothing at all. but it's there. I can feel from many years past saying, if left up to me, I wouldn't serve you at all. I take it black with cream and any old sweetener. The hotter the better, but warm is okay. I'd even choke down a donut, fold up my paper, pay my $2.50, and be on my way. Well, it might seem the same for both you and me, that check and the smile that says, have a nice day. But as I climb up into my cab, I adjust my rearview mirror. That's when I notice my color. But it's nothing you notice, and you can't understand. So I keep to the right of the broken white line. But my eyes are still wandering, 'cause I'll always be looking, eternally searching for it. I'm always looking for that good cup of coffee.
Beauty.
Boy, that's old. Holy smokes, that's old, Alastair. Wow, that's an old song.
How's your retention for material? How many songs are like working in your set that you actually have them down without looking at the lyrics? Do you have a ballpark?
I mean, in my life at this point, it's gotten worse with the COVID thing because I can prop things in front of me and I get lazy. But I also did I did a decade and a half of sort of cocktail music, and I was like the guy. And that cocktail meaning everything from Gershwin to Stevie Wonder to Joe Beam to Dylan. And I think there was probably 1,500 tunes at recall at that point. So I'm not bad right now. I actually didn't have to look that up after not really playing it much over the last 30 years. Good Cup of Coffee. It was off my first Rounder album. And it might have been on the cassette before that. I think it was. That would be 1989. How old were you in 1989, Alastair?
16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't have a first record yet.
I was 48. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Okay, no, that's a lie.
No, that's a lie. You're in your
That's a lie.
30s.
I was probably in my 30s, yeah. I was
When was that first
black
rounder?
don't crack, you know what I'm saying.
You look good.
Thank you, sir.
When was the first Rounder record?
91. 90 going into 91, yeah.
So I got here out of school in 95, and you were certainly an old dog on the block. I mean, you were up on the hill with Ellis and Dar Williams. These were the folks when I came.
Oh, yeah, those were the days, yeah. Everybody got famous but me. But, all right, that's cool. I'm not bitter.
You certainly have a lot of love and respect in our field.
Thank you.
Wide and far.
I appreciate that. It was quite a scene. There's some people that just had it coming out of the gate. People like Martin Sexton. Now he seemed to be born being able to. He's like our version of Amy Winehouse at 20 odd years old, being fully formed and just like ready to go. And I know comparatively, I think it's been the last 10 years that I can actually listen to myself and not feel like it's fingernails on a wall. So it's, it took It took as long as it took to kind of get to this. And the thing I would say to anybody listening that's a singer songwriter that's wondering why they're not hitting the like all cylinders are hitting the way they'd like. That old Miles Davis quote, and I think it goes something to the effect of sometimes it could take your whole lifetime to sound like yourself. And I believe it. It just takes as long as it takes to come to a point where you're solid in your music or your writing, and yeah, it's a journey, and it should be. I think I'll be 63 in October, and I'm still improving. My guitar playing is improved in the matter of COVID. You play a lot of guitar. And I know my guitar playing's improved in the last 6 months. It's really exciting. Not very quickly because I've got the retention skills of, a pecan, but it has some of my stuff has improved, and
Not your backhand.
my backhand is actually quite good. My backhand's better than yours, Alastair. You're a big guy, though. You're a big guy. Your serve is big when your back isn't hurting. I can't serve my. Oh, the motion is hurting my back.
I've already laid that on you. I usually don't get there until 4 or 5 times out.
Every time we play, you're like. But you know what we do? Here's when Alastair and I play. We don't really play sets or anything. We play like we're playing sets. But I actually end up serving most of the time, and you usually win the points. But
Yeah.
but we have a great time. We have a great time.
How did you find this music when you were going through listing those folks that you came up with? Ellis, Dar, Martin. There's an obvious thing that they all had in common. This is a very white scene. You're an exception to that. You're certainly not the only exception. My good friend Reggie Harris is another, and there are many others.
Reggie doesn't count. Reggie's 112 years old. He's been at this. He knew Booker T. Washington. Reggie does not count. You cannot count Reggie. Some of those freight train. He
was there when she wrote it.
He helped Liv Cotton write that. So Reggie, you can't count Reggie in this. He is a perfect example of black don't crack. Reggie,
yeah, he certainly is.
Reggie's a god.
Although he cracked his wrist recently, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going to have to write him. He and I for years have been trying to figure out. There is a Motown song with a saxophone solo that is one note. And we're trying to figure out what that is, because the saxophone player clearly was dragged in off the street and handed the chart and said, and so we're trying to figure that out.
Oh, okay.
So here's where this came from.
Yeah.
As a kid, growing up in Philadelphia, it was Stax and Motown and all the black music that was endemic to our stereo and coming through from it was an all black neighborhood, and I knew that it was because everybody in it was black. And then we moved to this suburb of Philadelphia where I started listening to things like the Beatles and Elton John, and it was a very, very mixed neighborhood. Every third house had a different race of people in it, and that's where I started picking up a lot of this music that would not be considered black music. And then I ended up at a college. I ended up at Connecticut College in New London, Connecticut, because my brother lived across the street because he worked at Electric Boat, and there was everybody. If you didn't have a acoustic guitar at this college, which was 93% white, then you didn't have friends. So I got a bass and an acoustic guitar, and I played a lot of Herbie Hancock, and I played a lot of James Taylor, and I played a lot of Smokey Robinson, and I sort of flopped back and forth, and then I became a jazz snob, and then I came to Boston, and started going to the open mics. I came to Boston with my biology degree to play guitar and sing. That's what I did. And I ended up going to the Nameless Coffee House and then these other little places where I met a lot of these other people. And finally, one night, somebody invited me to see this woman who was singing at this place called the Old Vienna Coffee House. And that was out in Westboro, Massachusetts. And I said, okay, I'll go, whatever. And got in my Volkswagen Bug with my girlfriend at the time, and went out there and paid the ticket. The ticket was cheap. It was like $12 or something to see this woman. They said, well, she might be big. She might be getting signed. I said, oh, great, whatever. And it was Sean Colvin. And from that day forward, I wanted to be a 5'6" white woman. That's all I wanted to be in life. And I set a goal for myself.
Limitations. Yeah.
Right? Well, I set a goal for myself. I set a goal. I said, in a year, I want to have a gig at this, because I was doing the open mic out there. In a year, I'm going to have a gig at this place. And 3 years from now, at some point, if she ever comes back, I'm going to open for Sean Colvin. Well, I had a gig at the place in 4 months. And less than a year later, I was invited to open the whole Fat City tour for Sean Colvin.
Mm.
So that was a dream come true, and she trusted me with her audience. I wasn't the writer I could have been, but I was a great entertainer, and that's what brought me from absolute unknown up to relatively obscure where I am now. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that stands out about you as a performer is that you are a great entertainer, and a lot of us aren't in this field. I mean, it's something you teach, stagecraft. It's something you mentor. I know, sometimes you MC stages without the guitar just because you can keep an audience hooked. Where's that come from? Did you ever try your hand at comedy, or where did you learn to entertain so well?
Well, it came. Thank you for that. Those kudos. It came from comedians, to be frank. From the now and reasonably disemboweled Bill Cosby and George Carlin and Richard Pryor. Those were the records that spun in between the R&B and jazz that were spinning in my house as a kid. Yeah. We were comical people. We also had to learn to laugh because there was a lot of schizophrenia and alcoholism in the house and violence. But in between those moments, it was never really any clarity, but there was always moments of some kind of unmitigated joy in these people putting that kind of business in the street, which is what these comedians did. And I will stand on your coffee table and shout that you learn more from watching a comedian than you would by watching most singer-songwriter anybody's.
I agree. And yeah. I listen to a ton of stand-up comedy and some storytelling too. For me, Garrison Keillor informed as much of what I do in my career. But prior, Lenny Bruce, I got into way back. Because it's such a pure craft without a guitar to hide behind, right?
You took the words out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
tell you something.
Right. You're absolutely right.
I know you opened a ton for Carlin. Carlin was actually... are you friends with Chandler Travis, or you must know Chandler through the years?
Yeah. I've played Chandler's show a couple of times. Because of Chandler, I never got to open for George within a 50-mile radius of Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
Chandler and George were close friends. Yeah. But everywhere else in the country and Canada, I was for 2 years out of George's life, right, not quite to the end, I was the guy. And that I had what I would consider probably the hottest 31 minutes in folk music.
Yeah.
Period. I was the guy that had to keep people and lift them up for 30 minutes of that. And in situations that no folk singer should ever be in.
No, it's
And
treacherous territory.
totally, people are. I'm leaving the stage. People, oh, if that's folk music, Martha, that's not so bad. Did you check that out? You know, by the time they realize it was folk music, I'm gone. You know,
Especially Carlin's late audience, you know, who were pretty grumpy, sort of middle of the road politically. It's interesting where Carlin ended up, but I'll tell you, like, Carlin got me through early years with this stuff. Chandler, without my knowing it, Chandler wrote one of the very first reviews of my very first album. And when I say very first, like, there were no other reviews. Chandler wrote one, and that was it. But he sent it on a mixtape, sent some of my songs to George, and I was working at this coffee house in Davis Square, and I got a letter from Carlin Productions in LA. George would like to buy your CD. And
that's
literally
so
5 people had heard this album, right?
That's so great. That's great.
Well, over the years, I never, I'm not funny. I never got to open for him. And I never met him in person, but he became a fan and wrote me encouraging words over the years.
That's amazing.
And it really, like, the struggle of this career you go through, and you feel like, what the hell am I doing? I'm certainly not earning enough money to justify this. And there aren't that many people in the seats. Am I crazy? Should I not be doing this at all? And for somebody like George to give that gift to a young songwriter to keep them going, it's a huge thing to do. And when he died, I started to hear people come out, people in comedy too, like Louis Black, who had all this. They all had these stories about George would just encourage people along the way, and he would say, he said this to me: "Don't ask me for anything. I'm not offering to help you. I just want you to know I like what you're doing. Keep doing it." And it meant so much.
Oh, he was a trip that way. He was the perfect, really libertarian comic. I mean, he was a Unitarian comic. He was right smack down gray area, like we were talking about. That's where George lived. Yeah. He still lives there. And it wasn't because he knew I could handle the stage, but it wasn't because I was funny, in particular, that he hired me. He didn't need any more funny. He just needed someone that could, rock the audience. He knew somebody who could keep their attention and make for some drama when I came out. So,
yeah, man. Hey, let me do a little. I don't know what's the right word. A little bookkeeping, or I want to tell people why we're here.
Sure, please. Go
ahead.
And
where some money is going tonight too. So,
do you mind if I floss while you do that?
No, you go ahead and floss. Let me put up a banner. I'm going to put up a banner with Vance's PayPal info. You can judge it on this performance right now. The money that you donate tonight will be split between Vance and FoodLink. FoodLink is a food security organization here in Boston, based in Arlington. It serves Eastern Massachusetts. And their big job, as I understand FoodLink, is that they rescue food that would go to waste otherwise from supermarkets and farms. They rescue that food, and then they serve it to people who need meals. And since 2012, they've rescued 4 million pounds of food and distributed the equivalent of 1 million meals. So your donations tonight will be split 50-50 between Vance and FoodLink. And Vance is also, and I want to be fully transparent about how all of this is working.
Tell him
I'm doing this.
Tell him I'm black. Tell him I'm black. Black.
Vance is black, and he is also being paid Some tonight by the Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church, the anti-racism team. And I want to thank these guys, Josh Shortledge, especially Stacy Babb, for all the work she has put into this, and Suzanne, Reverend Suzanne, and the church community over there. I'm not a very good Unitarian. I'm still learning. I don't know a lot, but we joined largely because we wanted to be in an intentional space to raise these children of ours. And
that is the nicest way to put that.
Yeah,
Intentional space. I mean, because Unitarians, they believe in everything, man. They will let you come in. Only time you hear the words Jesus Christ in the Unitarian church is when the janitor falls down the stairs. You are
That's right.
all set, man.
Well, they helped us raise our kids, one of whom is LGBTQ, and we very much wanted to raise our kids in a community where families came in different shapes and sizes. The UU Church is very good at fighting for social justice, especially around LGBTQ issues. They're frankly not as good at understanding issues of race because it's a very white church group. The intention is all there, and the intention to learn is there, but it's an ongoing conversation.
Isn't it always, though, Alastair?
It always is.
Who do you know comes fully formed to this? Now that we've trashed the Unitarian Church for what they don't do, who do you know comes fully formed to this? I mean, what do you get when you cross a Unitarian and a Jehovah's Witness? Somebody who comes knocking on your door has no idea why. I mean, people come to these things with a mix. They want to, here's a church, here's a steeple. Oh, my goodness, we don't need the church. We're just made up of people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Go ahead, Alastair. Finish your thing.
Well, and the willingness to learn is the important thing here. The willingness to engage in conversations and to keep being curious. And that's what I love about UU Spaces. And I think all of us have, work to do to keep learning and understanding. I want to give a little update. I'm still learning how to do this stuff about my next guest, and I saw one of them milling around in the comment room. Is Dan Zanes. The next guests in this series will be Dan and Claudia Zanes. Dan is a founding member of the Del Fuegos, seminal rock band from Boston, who went on to become really the king of independent children's music, and then had the great fortune to meet Claudia Zanes along the way. Claudia is a music therapist, and now the two of them, as a married partnership, tour the country and perform truly for all families, not just kids. And then after them in May, I'll be joined by Reese Palmer, a country musician who is absolutely blowing up. She was recently featured in the New York Times. She has her own podcast called Color Me Country, and we'll be talking in May. So we've been going for a while. I would like to...
Well, you look uncomfortable all of a sudden, Alastair. What? What do you want to ask me?
Just because I got that look, that look in my face.
What was that gassy look you had? What was that? What, Alastair? Go ahead, ask it.
I'm thinking we're gonna go until about 9:30. If it's all right with you, maybe I'll play a song. Would that be all right?
Sure, that'd be great.
Give you a break. You can finish your flossing and. All right.
Dan Zanes. I love that Dan Zanes married a black woman because he knows that the subsequent kids will go to college for free. I'm just saying. Hi, Dan.
We'll talk more next month. Let me shut Vance off here, everybody. All right. Well, I can't match Vance's poetry, but here's a little autobiographical song by me. My wife is like a little snoring pancake. I have to flip her several times a night. Her heart's as warm as old Doc Miller's handshake. And if I should die tonight, it'd be alright. If this is what an illness is, I'm happy to be sick. There's a rubber wall around me, and I'm bouncing off of it. When I go, I look back with a twinkle in my eye and say, this is what it is to be alive. My cat Pepper chases her own tail and looks at me like, what else can one do? I'm always searching for your trail as well. I'd chase you down to Perth, the Catman do. If this is what the world is like, I'm glad to just be here, chasing after you as each year chases after year. And if the darkness swallows us before the next we rise, this is what it is to be alive. How much heartache can one little heart take? How far can you bend a willow tree before the next hail makes our little cart break? I'm just glad you're here to ride with me. My little girl runs round the living room, picking up whatever she might see. I'm right behind her, running round there too. It's all a circle game for her and me. If this is what an ocean is, I'm glad to be at sea, bouncing off the waves like you come bouncing off of me. And if we sink, I'll think before I take my final dive. This is what it is to be alive. Yeah, this is what it is to be alive.
Oh my God, I forgot. I just forgot. Wow.
You forgot what?
I just forgot how consummate you are. It's just, wow.
Oh, thank you, man.
Tremendous. Bravo.
Thank you, brother. It's so nice to hear you. It's so nice to be here with you. Will you grace us? Will you grace us with another one?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wanted to talk a minute about.
Yeah, let's talk a minute, and maybe you can take us out with one.
Yeah, I was thinking about. You were asking me about that whole growing up thing, and where a lot of this came from, and it's really. It's really a wonder that I get to that I got to grow up partially as in an all black neighborhood and then in a mixed neighborhood because it gave me an opportunity to take in how different people were because we were brown and tall, Jew and small, freckled, fat, buck-toothed, flat, black and broken, short and Christian with teeth and hair in every direction. We were 20 different ways on how to pitch or catch a ball, but the day before November was the best day of the fall. Now, little Mikey Lundy had a dad who beat him daily for nothing anyone could ever put their finger on. As if he needed reason, it was always open season on Mikey when he came home late to all the whiskey gone. Now, little Mike was specially keen to be the Hulk at Halloween because he could wear a suit of green and hide the cuts and bruises. Hell, for one night we could all just be just what we wanted to be most. Robber, princess, vampire, ghost, whatever our muses chooses. Cause we were brown and tall, Jew and small, freckled, fat, buck-toothed, flat, black and broken, short and Christian with teeth and hair in every direction. We were 20 different views on which superhero had it all, but the day before November was the best day of the fall. Now the older boys would spin us stories of Miller's Field and of a man that crossed old Mr. Miller and then disappeared from sight. And if you squint, the street light on the corner of 5th and Mason cast a 10-foot scarecrow shadow guarding Miller's Field at night. But that didn't stop the older boys from laying flaming bags of poop on old man Miller's front porch stoop and then doing the knock and run. We'd see a leg come from behind the door and stomp it out, and that is all we ever saw of old man Miller as long as we were young. 'Cause we were brown and tall, Jew and small, freckled, fat, buck-toothed, flat, black and broken, short and Christian with teeth and hair in every direction. We were 20 different views on which superhero had it all, but the day before November was the best day of the fall. Now, we hated the candy apples that the Gormans dropped into our bag. They gummed up all the other stuff with their icky, sticky splatter. So Mikey's big idea, of course, was, hey, let's leave them on old Miller's porch. Shout, trick or treat, stinky feet, and then bang the door and scatter. So here he was, but 4'3" and braver than both you and me, tiptoeing with 10 apples on their dirty bamboo skewers. He rapped that door and how he flew, the fastest 4-foot hulk we knew, abandoning those treats of goo and all murderers' pursuers, 'cause we were brown and tall and Jew and small and freckled, fat and buck-toothed, flat, black and broken, short and Christian with teeth and hair in every direction. We were 20 different crayon shades should Crayola come to call, but the day before November was the best day of the fall. As Halloweening slowed this pace and we'd visited every neighbor's door, we snuck past old man Miller's place and the apples weren't there anymore. So one by one with pillowcases, booty-filled and chocolate faces, we peeled off from our group for home to make our stomachs sore. The next day on the bus, we tallied peanut butter cups and raisinets and good and plenty when Mikey shrugged and said, my father never came back home. And we said nothing. We just kept blowing bazooka bubbles and chewing peanut M&Ms instead. The days grew warm and we hit the bikes in shorts and T-shirts, and so did Mike. The only bruise still on that tyke was just above his shoe, where a pedal caught him on the shin, jumping the curb in a banana seat Schwinn. That shaver made us all seem braver with all his daring do. He smiled a whole lot more since then, but he never saw his dad again, and speculation has it that that bird just up and flew. But if you pass by Miller's Field at night and squint at that Fifth and Mason light, you'd swear where there was once one scarecrow, now there's clearly two, 'cause we were brown and tall, Jew and small, freckle fat, buck-toothed, flat, black and broken, short and Christian with teeth and hair in every direction. We were 100 different hopes and dreams spray-painted on God's wall, but the day before November was the best day of the fall.
Beautiful.
Thanks, man.
When did you start writing that kind of piece? Was that all the way through, or is that more recent for you?
That piece has a story to tell when it comes to its writing, because the idea for that piece is a decade old. And I was afraid to write it because I was afraid to ruin it. And I bet Dan over here and some of these other singer-songwriters, Kim Moberg and Anand, I'm sure you people understand what I'm saying. You just don't want to touch a piece of subject material because you were afraid you'll give it language that you can't take back. You can't get... it becomes permanent. Even if you write it in pencil, even if you write it on scrap paper or envelopes, it gets this permanent and you can't escape it. So I finally bit the bullet and started writing the story down. And my neighbors knew this song as well as I did because I'd written it a few years ago. And
Had you written it as a song?
No, I wrote it as a story, then it started turning into a song. And I started reciting it when I was walking the dogs at night, so I wouldn't bother, Deborah in the house. I started reciting it under my breath at night, but it was in the summer and the windows were open, and people would ask me, how's that song coming? Because I heard you last night rapping to yourself. I said, well, you know how my people are. We go out and we rap at night. That's how we keep it together in a white neighborhood, Mm-hmm. So it took a better portion of a couple weeks to write. It took a month to memorize. I actually flubbed a line in it. I repeated a line. We were 20 different crayon shades. Should Crayola come to call? Was one of the lines that I missed in it, and I repeated one of the others. But it's still cool, and it took that long to learn it. But once I had it, and it was a real hallmark for me to have finally written that song because, like I said, it was part Gil Scott Heron. It was part Rod Serling. It was part Night Before Christmas. It embodied a whole bunch, like the song itself, and it embodied a whole bunch of what I'm about to put together. So
I love your attention to detail, the way you tell stories, and it's something, you know, it doesn't always exist in the sort of contemporary singer songwriter scene. I think
that's racist.
We're very good at.
That's racist. You just called me Uncle Remus. That's racist. Go ahead, though. Go ahead. I'm calling you in. I'm calling you in.
I'm trying not to be. There's a lot of feelings. I love stories, and you are a consummate storyteller. You always have been, and I love. You told me a few years ago that you had started doing more storytelling without the guitar. That half of your is that right? Like half of your shows now are spoken word, or
no. I think
okay.
I think where I was going with that at the time. I think what you heard was you heard because you were exhausted from trying to hit that backhand. What I'm due now is more story oriented in the song than it was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us back to a certain, I mean, I'm going to expose myself to this audience a bit, in that if someone was to ask me, what do you write first, the words or the music? I'm going to say words. Words.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the reason being is that as a black man, I mean, I put it in my bio as a joke, but as a black man, I want to be known as a thinker and not as an athlete, because that's an old trope. The fact that he's so vocally athletic. I think I have some vocal gifts, but at the same time, the worst thing that one could say to me was that, oh my God, Vance, your voice, you could sing the phone book. And I work really hard at trying to sound at least half literary. And I think that is something that I'm not alone as a black man trying to do. I want to be more literary. That is the legacy I would like to leave. Is that was because when I'm 80 years old and still doing this music, I'm not going to be as dulcet as I am now. But hopefully the songs will hold up. And to make the songs hold up, the story in the song is being well told. I can't ask for anything more than that. So that's my own bag of bananas that I carry.
I mean, besides being completely literary, and you are a lyricist first and foremost, I think what you pointed out there is important.
What, you don't like my
for the audience to hear?
Oh damn, bro.
You're right. When people talk about songwriting in this community, in the folk music world, they tend to lean really hard into the white men, especially, right? It's always Dylan. It's the baritone white dudes, and this impression that that's where the intellect is, and then the soul. But rarely in those conversations do we hear Stevie Wonder. Do we hear Leadbelly? When we talk about early folk, we hear Woody Guthrie, and I'm somebody who's very much, that's me. Leadbelly's is the sort of the impression I think that gets thrown around a lot is somebody like Leadbelly's about feeling, or Elizabeth Cotten, and Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger are about intellect, and there's absolutely race wrapped up in that.
Absolutely. I used to visit all the very gay places, those come what may places, where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life, to get the feel of life from jazz and cocktails. The folks I knew had sad and sullen gay traces, with death stone gay traces that used to be there. You can see where they've been washed away. Too many through the day, 12 o'clock tales. That's Duke Ellington, man. That's Billy Strayhorn to be. I mean, and that's the poetry is, it's remarkable. It's remarkable, that poetry. Yeah. And that is what I strive for, and I think that's what Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington, was always dapper and looked the part of the elite, and I'm sure that was because he's bucking the trend of the perceived Huddy Ledbetter and Robert Johnson with their feet in the mud playing an untuned guitar, which is also a horrible trope, but that was the deal. This music is as close to classical music as you're going to get, maybe even better because we're improvising in it. The American art form of jazz, that's where a lot of that comes from, and that's a lot of where I come from. Same thing, Smokey Robinson. Just like the desert shows a thirsty man, a green oasis with his only sand. You lured me into something I couldn't dodge. The love I saw in you was just a mirage. It's like Bob Dylan was half joking when he said he thought Smokey Robinson was the greatest living lyricist at that point in time. But Smokey was a beast.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great writer. Very literary, very poetic, very Robert Frost, man. I mean, So.
Yeah. I could literally sit here and talk with you all night.
Well, come on, let's do that. Let's get something to eat and come back in a couple minutes.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's do that. Let me sign off to these folks because an hour and a half is about what we were shooting for, and we're there.
I want to thank you for taking this time, and thank you all you people who have donated. I'm sure I'm supposed to give half of this money to Food Link.
I'll be checking on you.
We'll see what happens with that. I'm going to give a bunch of it. It's always more than half anytime I give to Food Link anyway. But thank you, Alastair, for being willing to talk to me. Willingness is 3/4 of the battle. That's for anybody talking about anything, but particularly about issues of race. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, I very much wanted you to be my first guest because I knew that you would put the audience at ease, that anything I flubbed, which I know I did plenty of tonight, that you would keep us honest and on the right track. And you've done that with, I almost said in spades, but I would never say that to you, Vance, because I know I would just be setting you up.
Oh my God, oh my God. That is so rackist. It's totally rackist. Holy smokes.
Tell him he sent me an email with a bunch of info by mistake for folk venue stuff, and I told him I had just sold it on the folk music black market. What did you say?
I said, Alastair, market of color, thank you. I was calling him in.
He called me right in.
Call him in. Black market of color. That was some funny shit.
You're some funny guy. I love you, brother.
Hey, I love you too. Are the nets up yet?
Yes, they are. Will you come back and join us? Maybe we'll get a crowd.
Over at the court?
And then we'll see who can hit a backhand and who can't.
I am 30 pounds lighter. What I don't hit, I'll at least get to and get hit by. So.
All right. All right, man.
I love you.
All right. I love you too. And everybody, please come back and join me on April. Let me get this date right. Come back and join me for the great Claudia and Dan Zanes on April 25th.
Look at them.
They're a good-looking couple.
They are good-looking.
And Reese Palmer on May 23rd. Thank you, everybody. Good night, Vance.
Good night,
I don't know how to
Alastair.
turn this damn thing off. Good night, brother. I'll see you on the court soon. Here
Love
we go.
you, ciao.